The Austin Grand Prix was a real roller coaster ride for pretty much every team. Rocket ships became glacial, only to rediscover their potency on the medium tyres. Powerhouses went from pugilist to punished in a matter of laps, and dire straits turned to debut points for a maligned Williams driver at his home race. Well, one of them anyway. No team encapsulates the rollercoaster nature of F1 greater than Aston Martin, who on an average weekend have seen their cars tip to either end of the scale in unison, balancing out the brilliance of one driver with the poor performance of another, to create an amalgamation of average, destined to never reach the greatness that they once seemed to promise. So if Aston Martin was a rollercoaster team the rest of the season, then this weekend they became the whole damn theme park. From clowns and frights to excitement and back again, Aston Martin is surely going to need some painkillers for the whiplash that they experienced this weekend. Want to know where it all went wrong for Aston Martin this weekend? It's really something that we could not have seen coming. And where do they go from here? Also, stick around to the end, because it seems like the target on Red Bull's back may have just become a lot easier to hit for the rest of the grid, with one driver in particular making his aims for next year clearer than ever. Let's start by thinking back to the start of the weekend. Friday hits, and the buzz around the paddock tells you that it's Friday qualifying, arguably one of the best parts about these sprint weekends. The buzz that was felt by fans was only matched by the anxiety felt by the teams who had brought upgrades with them this weekend. With limited time for on-track testing, they have to act fast to find an optimum setup to give them the best possible opportunity for points on Sunday. So first things first, separate the wheat from the chaff, the back markers from the podium contenders. 15 minutes of running later, and we're met with our first 5 drivers knocked out. Of those drivers, 2 names immediately stand out: Stroll and Fernando Alonso. Their team is one of the teams that bought upgrades to Austin, and it's clear that they haven't worked at all. And what's worse is these are the last major upgrades that the team is expecting this season, one that was touted to save their year after huge mistakes, according to Sports Illustrated. The upgrades seem to be performing so abysmally that both drivers opt to start from the pit lane, with Stroll attempting to tame the car with major setup changes that break parc ferme, and Fernando Alonso opting to entirely revert to the previous spec, which is pretty damning as it shows that the team believes that this is the best move in which their main point scorer can perform, with their second driver resorting to a research and development role for the remainder of the weekend, having failed to optimize the car due to a mistake on the simulator translating to a brake issue that prevented them from doing any meaningful running on Friday, putting them on the back foot for the entire weekend. Aston Martin Deputy Technical Director Alec Blandin, however, has insisted that the upgrade showed great potential and explained why the team made the decision to do the race on a split setup between the cars, having this to say before the race. We learned that the package is performing as we were expecting, but we haven't been able to optimize the setup, so we will start both cars from the pit lane. We are effectively changing the setup. We think that there is more performance to come from the car, but we took the pragmatic approach to start both cars with, one with the Qatar spec and the other with the new package. So Lance is going to have the new spec, Fernando will have the Qatar spec. Team principal Mike Crack would also go on to say that the team knew that bringing upgrades to this weekend in particular would be risky, as well as their decision to start from the pit lane being a risk too. However, he feels that the risks were worth taking in the grand scheme of things, having this to say after the race. When you have only 1 hour, when we came here, we said we have to be 100% in this one session. If we have one glitch, you don't have the data that you want to have. And we have had that glitch, and we didn't have the data, so I think it's manageable if you have no issues. To bring upgrades into a sprint, and other teams are doing it, it's doable, but the risk is higher. And this is the reality, so fact is that on Friday, we should have done our homework. We didn't do it, and we had the consequences all over the weekend. Going on to talk about the decision to start from the pits, Crack said, "You know that it will be very difficult to score if you start from the pit lane, especially with the pace that we had yesterday. Obviously, now we know that it was the right decision. I think we were also helped a little bit by circumstance." The team principal would later go on to say, "Scoring 2 points with Lance represents a good recovery when you consider everything that happened this weekend, including starting from the pit lane with both cars." So as damning as this weekend looks on paper, it would seem that the upgrades at least show the potential to stop the team from atrophying any further and gifting points to their closest rivals. However, this really wasn't what the onlookers to the team, especially the potential investors, will take away from the weekend. I mean, it's pretty simple reading. Alonso retires from the race on the old spec, Stroll manages to score points on the new spec, however, it took 3 retirements including his teammate and 2 disqualifications after the race for him to do so. Well, at least they got some data on the setup and 6 points to keep within 6 of McLaren in the constructors, which, if the Silverstone team's premonitions of future form comes to pass, this may prove integral as to whether they can secure P4 in the constructors or not, a far cry from the position that they showed the potential to be in at the start of the season. However, despite us maybe taking a negative view on things, Fernando proved to be positively peachy after a disappointing weekend for Aston Martin, even going as far to say that up until this race weekend, they were in a better position overall this season than McLaren. Before the race, Fernando had this to say: "We are super proud of this 2023, 197 points more at this point this year than last year, which is something incredible. And yeah, even if you stop someone now in the paddock and you ask them which one had the better season, 99% of people will say McLaren. They are 11 points behind, so you know, until now, actually we had the better season than them because we are 11 points ahead." Well, I mean, he wasn't wrong, but obviously it didn't last. Fernando then went on to give his outlook on the remainder of the season, as well as give a preview onto what he thinks the team will be able to bring to the table next season. But it's true that the final race is where it counts, and what stays in your head. And this final couple of weekends, we are not up to speed. They've been better than us in terms of developing the car, so we need to accept that. But 2024 is going to be a different thing. Speaking of McLaren, it would appear that the incredible turn of form in the second half this season is not slowing down, with yet another strong drive from Lando and only Lady Luck and an Alpine standing between Piastri and what could have been yet another strong showing. This strong performance was capped off by Lando's bold claim that they are coming for Red Bull over the team radio at the end of the race, publicly laying down the gauntlet. On its own, this could be seen as just more cheeky chappiness by the British driver, who also took shots at Aston Martin, claiming that they seem to have made the car slower and slower with every upgrade that they've bought. However, McLaren has taken a massive step off track, one which Red Bull seems to be incapable of taking, as they have been hit by a massive setback on their wind tunnel development. Sam Collins revealed on X, "Red Bull has withdrawn its planning application for the new facility, being the wind tunnel, which means that there is no chance of construction starting soon." For any other team, this would prove to be a slight setback, but not a potential crippling of future plans. However, no other team has a wind tunnel dating back to before the Cold War. Yeah, we're being serious, look it up. While it did receive a facelift in the early 2000s under Arrows and Jaguar, compared to the rest of the field, it's years behind the curve. When you compare this to McLaren's brand new state-of-the-art facility, which is due to start being used for production in 2024, and also combine the trajectory that McLaren is currently on, could we be seeing the next great championship battle being fought out between a revived McLaren and a fading Red Bull? Only time will tell, but I can tell you something for free. We might not be waiting until 2026 to see some real action out on the track after all.